I place before you today life and death. Habrocha v'aklola, the blessing and the curse. And then here's the famous words of Echarta b'chaim, and therefore choose life. That you should live and your progeny should live. In the book of Psalms, chapter 68, verse 27, it says like this: Tehillim, B'makelos baruch Elokim, Hashem mimekor Yisrael. That in the congregations you shall bless God, and it's implied you should bless the Lord from the source of Israel. The Talmud tells us that this teaches us, when it says Mekor Yisrael, the source of Israel, that this indicates that even that when at the miracle of the splitting of the Red Sea, everyone sang to God, even those who are from the source, meaning those who are not yet born, the unborn. This we see among many other statements that our sages have taught us, that Judaism is really the original pro-life faith. A very popular saying in the pro-life community tells us, choose life. And in our tradition, that comes from our Torah. It comes from the book of Deuteronomy. It says in Parshas Nitzavim, which is coming up in a few weeks, it's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 15. Re'einu sati lefnechem hayom esachayim v'satoiv v'samovis v'sara. It says, look and see this. I have placed before thee today life and goodness, and on the other hand, death and evil. Asher anuchi mitzavcha hayom, that which I command you today, le'ahavas Hashem Elokecha, to love the Lord thy God, u'lechas b'drachav, to go in his paths, in his ways, l'shmor mitzvaysav, and to keep his commandments, v'chukoysav, and his statutes, v'mishpatav, and his laws, v'yisav v'risa, and you will live, and you will be abundant of v'rachtu Hashem Elokecha, and thou shalt bless the Lord thy God, ba'aretz asher ata v'shama l'rishta, in the land that you will go there to inherit it. And if your heart turns away and you don't listen, and you cast it away and you worship other gods and bow down to them. I'm telling you today that you'll surely be destroyed. Your days will not be long on the earth. When you on the land, when you cross over the Jordan River, you're going over there to conquer the land. I'm making that they should give testimony to you today. It's a Shemayim V'Sa'aretz. Heaven and earth will testify. I place before you today life and death. Habrocha v'aklola, the blessing and the curse. And then here's the famous words of Echarta b'chaim, and therefore choose life. That you should live and your progeny should live. To love the Lord thy God, to listen to his voice, and to attach yourself to him. Because this is your life and the length of your days. To dwell on the land that the Lord promised to thy ancestors, to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to give to them. He promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to give to them. And I know that the pro-life community has grabbed onto these two words, choose life. They put it on bumper stickers, even on the license plates, and it's very good. I'm not criticizing that. But there's two sides to this. Essentially, this statement, choose life, means to choose the Torah as a whole. Meaning when we choose the Torah, we're choosing life, and we're choosing blessing. So then the question has to be, is there a connection to this issue? And yes, there is. Is there a direct connection, meaning, is it just a bumper sticker? Is it just a saying to connect choose life to the question of abortion? Is it something that's beyond what the Torah is saying? I believe not. Because Torah is indeed the first pro-life religion. The very first mitzvah of the Torah is puravu, to be fruitful and multiply. I have a co-worker in my work in prison ministry who's been there for 30 years. And when I told him that I have 7 children, he said that's the greatest pro-life statement he could have. I said, by us, that's already a small family. I know people have twice as that many, maybe more. But the truth is, we don't recognize sometimes being in the world that we live in, having the blessing of living in a world that the Torah has transformed and transfigured. And indeed, the whole world has been transformed by Torah. We don't realize what we're dealing with. If we go back to ancient times, the ancient pagan civilizations, you had the ancient Romans, ancient Greeks, particularly the Spartans and others. For them, not only was it a question of abortion, but infanticide. Babies were often left to die, rather than to have what they would see as an inconvenience of raising the children. That was by neglect. And then, on the other hand, certain civilizations or uncivilizations, certain pagan cultures, as the Torah warned time and time again, would actually sacrifice their children, actively murder their children out of some kind of a twisted religious fervor. And so this aspect, this that we see today, of this death movement that they call unironically pro-choice. The truth of the matter is that there's nothing new under the sun, as King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes. This is really harkening back to the ancient ways, the worship of Molech and Baal and all of these other horrific cults where they murdered their children. And even though there's discussion about within Jewish law in those very rare cases which almost never happen anymore today, where mother's life is in danger, it shouldn't take that one aspect and make a whole religion out of it. That doesn't encapsulate Judaism as a whole. As a whole, Judaism is not only a pro-life religion, it is the original pro-life religion. The whole Torah is about life. It's a Torah's Chaim, it's a Torah of life, not only a living Torah, but a Torah of life, a religion of life. And it's those who have twisted our religion who have turned it into a cult of death. The truth is, we say l'chaim, we wish each other to life, we celebrate life. And this concept of wantonly murdering innocent unborn babies undermines society as a whole. Meaning, Judaism has transformed the world. We have to be so thankful of how Judaism transformed the world. That we no longer live in a world where whether at the beginning of life or the end of life, life is snuffed out in a ruthless way. As it was, like we said, the ancient Romans and Greeks would leave babies to die, the ancient Norse would do the same, the ancient Canaanites would kill their children. And until quite recently, in India, there was the sute practice, that they would burn widows alive, kill widows. And so too, it's become on the left somewhat of a death cult, that they're going back, and there's some aspects of the antinomian society. that it's become almost, again, with a religious fervor, back to the worship of Molech and Baal and all of these other cults that existed. But there's even another nefarious aspect. Maybe not, it's hard to say which is worse from the two. Judaism is a religion that fights against racism. A very famous, a beautiful story in the Talmud, that there was a high priest who made it out alive from the temple after Yom Kippur, after the Day of Atonement, and he, the Gemara in Yuma tells the story, and so a throng gathered around the high priest as he was walking home from the temple. And in the crowd were the two great rabbis of that generation, were Shmai and Avtalion. And a great deal of the throng around the high priest gathered around Shmai and Avtalion, and Shmai and Avtalion went to approach the high priest to give their greeting to him. And the high priest was a little offended that they were getting so much attention, and he was not getting the attention that he felt he deserved. And Shmai and Avtalion, they were converts, and their ancestry was from Sennacherib, the Assyrian king who exiled the 10 lost tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel. And so the high priest said, "Oh, peace be unto ye, children of heathens." He greeted them in a derisive manner. And they said to him, "Better we, who are the children of heathens, who act like Aaron, who make the uvda de Aharon, than you, a son of Aaron, who does not act like Aaron." Yes, in Judaism, lineage has a place, but it's supposed to humble us. Meaning we're supposed to say, "Mosai yegia ma'aseh l'ma'aseh avoisai." When will my deeds reach the deeds of my ancestors? And that's what ancestry comes into. But ancestor doesn't only have to mean blood ancestry. Talmidim elu habonim, one's disciples are also one's children. And so with this we see that Judaism rejects racism. And yet the left, as much as they claim that those on the right are the racists, the Democrat Party has always been the party of racism. It was the party that started the Klan. It was the party that the liberal progressives pushed eugenics. And they started Planned Parenthood. And the ideology of Planned Parenthood is rooted in racism. And if those who support abortion, like in the old days, used to say that it should be safe, rare, and legal, they've abandoned this idea of rarity. But there's something more nefarious. We know that the African American community in America is about 12% of the American community. And yet, the majority of abortions are from people of color. And I believe that is rooted in the original racism that Margaret Sanger and others engaged in. And that should be detestable to us as Jewish people. That there has been a Holocaust, more than three Holocausts against the black race, perpetrated by the Democrats since 1973, since Roe versus Wade. But now we can rejoice a bit that Roe has been turned over, and so even the Uber Shebemei Imam are saying Shira, just like by the miracle of the crossing of the Red Sea, so too the fetuses in the mother's wombs are singing to God, but the battle's not over yet. Battle's not over yet, it's just begun. Now that at least, the very least, that the question has been returned to the states, and that federalism has been restored, and democracy has been restored over the tyrannical oligarchy of the judiciary that Jefferson warned about, that if judicial review got out of hand, we're seeing a restoration of democracy through this decision. But we know, again, the battle's not over yet. We have to focus on what the Torah is teaching us. The evaluation of life destroys society as a whole. When people have no respect for innocent babies and the innocent elderly, and they engage both in abortion and euthanasia, and have no value for human beings made in the image of God, society as a whole is destroyed by that. And so that's when we say choose life, this important aspect of fighting against the abortion industry, in particular the racist aspect of the abortion industry and all, that devalues human life made in the image of God. We get it turned around. That on the other hand, that when we make a society that values life, society as a whole is uplifted. And so we choose life and we choose blessing. And so that's what we have to do as a society, to value human rights, which is what the Torah teaches, to value life and to choose life, and thereby we choose blessing, happiness, and goodness. We choose Torah, we choose life, we choose the good, we choose the blessing. Thank you for watching. God bless.
I'm the news that nobody expected. I was never a part of your plan. I'm the reason why life as you know it feels like it's slipping through your trembling hands. And the doctors say I'm just an option, a mistake you can make disappear. I may not have a voice, but I'm more than a choice. I'm as real as the heartbeat you hear. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. I am God's miracle in the making, proof that all things can work for the good. I am fingers and toes, and heaven already knows the name you pick out for me already belongs to me. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. Every life is sacred, and every life is a gift, and every life deserves a chance to live. I know you're scared, I know you're scared, I know you're scared right now. But when you hear my first cries, and when you look in my eyes, you'll understand why you brought me to life. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. May there be abundant peace from heaven and good life upon us and upon all Israel. Amen.